Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Why Your Career Journey Should Include a Break with Katrina McGhee, class of 2001. It's a pleasure to have so many of you on the screen today for the first alum career program workshop of the fall. As I'm reviewing my initial notes here, please feel free, and you're already doing this, keep dropping in the chat who you are, where you're joining us from as folks continue to join us. We really want to get a sense of the group. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce myself and introduce our program to all of you. My name is Christy Kennedy. I'm an alum of the class of 2010. I am an Albrighter. I don't know if anyone else here is an Albrighter, but I'm looking at my beloved Albright from my office right now. In my current role, I'm the Director of Alumni Career and Leadership Engagement, which is an exciting role for me to hold here at my alma mater. And that basically means that I lead programs in partnership with my colleague, Dana Olivo, to offer events such as these that bring Smithies together to connect and build skills around their professional goals. So in addition to these virtual events, our team offers in-person networking opportunities. We have alum career coaches like Katrina available for all of you to work with. And we also just have online, on-demand resources for you to access at any time to meet your individual needs. All of that lives in a really great place in the Smith Network platform. We have a special section called the Career Hub. And if you haven't taken a look at that yet, please check it out. We will share information about it following this workshop when we send our follow-up materials. But this is your place to access all of these great career resources that I've just mentioned. You can also, through that platform, reach out to Katrina and other coaches to set up one-on-one appointments. You can view past workshops and resources. You can connect with fellow Smithies, and a whole bunch more. LinkedIn Learning access is there for all of you to enjoy. Tons of good stuff. I really encourage you all to take a look. We say around here, anything a Smithy needs to find their version of career or post-career success and fulfillment exists within the network, and our team is here to help you access what you need. So that is why we're here, and that is what we do. I wanted to take a moment to introduce our presenter to all of you today. So Katrina McGhee is a career break and sabbatical coach, speaker, and author of the best-selling book, Taking a Career Break for Dummies. With her wealth of knowledge and experience, Katrina helps mid-career professionals design transformative life breaks that lead to happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. Katrina developed the Break Blueprint, a guiding framework she's used to help nearly 100 clients rejuvenate their lives by taking a break to travel the world, launch a business, write a novel, change careers, and more. Katrina's work was inspired by her own 20-month career break, where she saved $40,000 in just 18 months to quit her corporate job to travel the world. As an avid world traveler and digital nomad, her expertise on career breaks and travel has been featured in prestigious outlets such as NBC, ABC, Forbes, Smarter Travel, Thrive Global, and Yahoo. So we are so happy to have Katrina here. We're so fortunate to have her as part of our Smith community and available to all of us to talk to us about career breaks. And before she gets started, we wanted to just take a moment to get a sense of who's in the room, why people are here today, and what your experience is with this topic of career breaks. So my colleague Kimberly is going to launch a poll. If you could take a quick look and respond to that poll, let us know why you're here. And then once we have a sense of the group, Katrina will get us started with her presentation. Cool, I'm watching.
This is exciting.
Cool. Quite a few of you are currently on a break. That's awesome. Great. Pretty good participation there, Katrina. I think we have a good sense of why people are here and what they're up to. So now that we've seen that, I'll kick it over to you to get us started.
Awesome. Okay, I'm so excited for this. Thank you for that awesome introduction, Christy. So I am going to attempt to share my screen, technology permitting. Presenting. Okay, I think we're ready. All right, let's dive into why your career journey should absolutely include a break, which it sounds like some of you are already on, which is just really fabulous. Okay, so 3 years ago, Simone Biles stunned the world when she unexpectedly withdrew from the Olympics, citing a really serious mental health concern. And a lot of people wondered if this signaled the end of her career. They wondered if she would ever be able to return to gymnastics. And if she did, would she even be able to come close to the version of her that she was sort of stepping away from? But at the very next Olympics, Simone Biles returned and she won even more gold medals. But this time, she did it on her own terms. She got to enjoy the journey and she got to honor her well-being while also achieving goals and crushing, right? So much of what she was doing on that gymnastics floor. And this was a really notable difference from how she experienced all of the achievements and successes before. In her words, this time around was really special. She said, I'm a lot happier and I choose to do this. I'm in a good spot mentally and physically, and you can't take that away from me. Whenever I'm out there, it's just pure joy. Her secret weapon is that Simone took a sabbatical. She took a break from her career. She took time away to recover from the pressures and the demands that were on her, and instead to focus on her mental health, her well-being, and her life outside of work. She took a more gold medals, more joy approach to life. And it was so awesome to see her achieve her goals, but doing it with so much more empowerment and joy. She was no longer just trading one for the other. Now, you might not be a professional athlete, but Smithies we're out here performing at similarly high levels when it comes to, our mental performance and what we are contributing to our jobs. It can be really exhilarating to feel so impactful and to be using our brains in such creative and amazing ways. But it also comes with a lot of stress and demands to be high achievers. And today's world is requiring a really unnatural and unsustainable pace. For us in this sort of always on culture, it's really hard to find our balance. So statistically speaking, the majority of us are going to be led into burnout at some point because of the way that we are unsustainably living and working. And I want you to know today that a break is absolutely a fantastic tool to have in your toolkit to help you manage your life and your job and your career in a more sustainable way at a more sustainable pace. And there's actually good news on the horizon. Breaks are becoming way more valued and accepted in the workforce. In 2022, LinkedIn launched the career break feature, and over 1 million people that year listed career breaks on their LinkedIn profiles. Also, Bank of America the following year in 2023 offered sabbaticals for the first time to their employees, and only employees had at least 15 years of experience. And within 6 months, over 5,000 Bank of America employees had taken them up on the opportunity to take a sabbatical. And this year, Gusto reported that an extra 3% of the workforce had taken a sabbatical versus the rates and percentages we were seeing in 2019. So it went from somewhere around 3.5% to about 6.7% of the workforce. So breaks are definitely a topic that is trending. And I just saw in the news yesterday that Adele turned down a $100 million 2-year residency extension in Las Vegas so that she could take a career break. And I think this is really important to add. You don't have to earn the right to take a break through struggle and suffering. You can also take a break even when you are still at the top of your game because you want to pour into yourself and other aspects of your life beyond work to create an even better and more fulfilled version of yourself. So with that said, how did I come to know so much about this topic? I want to share just a little bit about how I got here. So in 2010, my life looked really good from the outside. I had just finished an 8-year career as a healthcare actuary. I had literally just graduated from a top 20 MBA program with my business degree and had started working at General Mills as a market researcher. And from the outside, my life looked really good. It looked really successful. But on the inside, I was feeling a lot of disconnection from the life I had and the life I wanted to live. I felt like I was missing this sense of fulfillment in my life. And I also was starting to feel apathetic about the work I was doing, which was bleeding over into other parts of my life. And at the end of the day, I was really craving a change, but I didn't know what that change was. I knew I wanted to break free. I wanted to rediscover myself. I wanted to have time for passions and hobbies and interests, and I wanted to really enjoy my life, but I didn't know exactly what that meant. I eventually realized I wanted to take a break. I wanted to see and travel the world, but I didn't know how to do that. I followed my intuition. I started working with a life coach back in 2011. She helped me really have the insight to be able to plan for this experience and think about what was most important to me. And I ended up saving the $40,000 in 18 months. I gave my job 8 months notice. I took off. I traveled the world for 20 months. I came back and I decided the next step was to pay off all of my debt from my student loans as fast as possible. So from the day I started applying to jobs until the day I accepted an offer, I had managed to land 5 job offers in 5 weeks. And one of these jobs was a dream job. One job was a raise and a promotion. Another job was a career change. And it was in this moment that a seed was planted for the work I do today, because I realized not only was my break transformational for me and amazing for my own excitement and well-being, but it was also a pathway to improve my professional life. It wasn't sacrificing all of the work I had put into my career and my education. It was actually helping me further it. So I went back to work. I ended up taking that dream job. I paid off all of my debt in less than 2 years. And then I became a certified life coach. And I started to help people take breaks. 6 years later, fast forward 6 years, I was asked by the For Dummies publisher that does the For Dummies series to write Taking a Career Break for Dummies, which was a really big deal. I did not have experience as an author, but I knew that this topic is really important. And so I rose to the challenge of writing a For Dummies book on this topic, and it became a bestseller. I still today get amazing notes and notes from people talking about how it has really helped them feel empowered to take the break they need and wanted to take. And just last month, I crossed the threshold of having supported over 100 breaks through my coaching. And I also launched a community for career breakers and sabbatical takers. So this has been a special year for me. So through all of this experience, both personal and professional, I'm going to share with you what I've learned and give you what I think you need to know to make your break successful and to make your break happen. So before we dive into some of the details, I just want to quickly talk about definitions, because there are a lot of terms out there on breaks. So I just want to clarify. When we talk about sabbaticals, the technical definition of this is a company benefit that is provided to you. So it's a specific type of a leave of absence that you're given, sometimes after a certain number of years of service, but it is through your employer. So when you take the break, you usually can do whatever you'd like, but it is a predetermined and agreed upon amount of time that you're going to be out. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's not. It depends on your employer, but you know what you're coming back to. You're going to come back to the same company, and oftentimes you are going to come back to the same role. A leave of absence is a broader term, which sabbaticals would be a subset of that, but a leave of absence can be taken for many different reasons and is often negotiated directly with your employer. Reasons you might take a leave of absence: mental health, physical health, caregiving for another, or relocation, for example. Some people get to take leave of absence for training or learning and development, but this again is you pausing your employment to take this space and time to achieve a specific goal or focus on a specific thing, and then coming back to your employer. A career break is the boldest of these three and slightly different because it is when you are leaving the safety net of your previous employer and you're quitting your job to take time off. You are truly open to all of the possibilities. You get to determine the length of time, but you also have to do it, right, with the uncertainty, navigating the uncertainty of what you're going to do once your break is over. So with that said, terms you might hear people use to describe a career break are terms like a mini retirement, an adult gap year, a work sabbatical. All those terms are basically meaning the same thing. So just to clarify and make sure we're all on the same page. Now let's talk about, why are people taking breaks? What are the main motivators and what are the benefits that come from taking this time out? Burnout is a huge motivator for my clients and for people that take breaks. Statistically speaking, it's around 70% of us that are experiencing or will experience in the next 1 to 2 years burnout to some extent. It is really prevalent in our society today. It's something that most of us are wrestling with. I see this with a lot of clients, right? The demands, the job stress, the life stress, the always on culture, burnout and its symptoms, like not being able to sleep, having physical health issues, mental health, not being able to perform at the high level that you're used to. A lot of these things can lead people to extreme periods of discomfort and just feeling like they need to like take a step back to care for themselves. So I definitely see this come up a lot. Another one, which has kind of like a dramatic word, but betrayal. So I want to frame betrayal as being disloyal to your values and your priorities. So think of this as living out of alignment. So there's this misalignment between what you really value, which could be something like your connection with the people you love, or it could be your physical and mental health, and the way that you're living your life. Or if you're like me, it could look like being in a job or a career that at one time was really interesting and meant something to you and had purpose and meaning. But as you've evolved and changed, you feel like, I don't really want to be here. I don't really want to be doing this. I feel like my gifts aren't being utilized in the way I should and want to be utilizing them. And I just feel like there's this misalignment in my path with where I'm at, right? So it's that sense of feeling like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I'm not doing what I want to be doing. And there's some sense of I'm not being loyal to my priorities and or my values. And then the last one is blossom. This is moving towards something. This is looking at the horizon to say, you know, with great success in my career has also come great sacrifice. I haven't poured into my personal goals or my happiness or my connection with other people, or my interests and passions and hobbies in the way that I have maybe wanted to. And I would like to carve out time to really blossom and thrive in my life, to focus on things that go beyond just my career and to figure out who I am separate of just my job, right? So when it comes to taking a break, again, these are by far the three biggest motivators I see driving people into a break. But even if you didn't take a break willingly, right? Like if you were maybe laid off or just for some reason, you know, unexpectedly put on a break, there's a very good chance that you might have still been experiencing one or more of these motivating factors. And in fact, many of my clients are experiencing more than one, if not all three. When it comes to what you stand to gain from a break, the answer is so many things, right? If you are facing burnout, the chance to fully disconnect from your work and the stress and to not have to feel like the moment you wake up, your brain is firing and worrying about all the together. And then when you're trying to go to sleep, you're stressed about all of the things that are coming up in your brain and all the things you just feel like you can't juggle, right? It's a chance for renewal. It's a chance to recharge. We're running at like 20% battery. And when we get down to like 5% emotionally and mentally and physically, we're like running for the charger. We power up, we get back up to that 20%. We take it off the charger. I don't have time for a full charge. I'll just keep going, right? A break is a chance to get to that 100%, to renew and to establish better boundaries and habits that are going to allow you to avoid sliding back into burnout when you return to work. It's going to let you have the space to set up a healthier habit and a healthier way of moving through your day so that you can feel better when you return to work. If you're struggling with betrayal and feeling like you're being disloyal to your values and priorities, this is a chance to rediscover the magic of who you are and what you bring and what you really want from this next stage of your life. What you used to want might be different than what you want today. And it gives you a chance to reconnect to that. It gives you a chance to reclaim your health. I've had clients, you know, who were struggling with a really serious health issue and couldn't figure out what it was because they were working in a job that was so demanding they didn't have time. And when they were on a break, they got a diagnosis that they were living with Lyme disease and mold toxicity, and they had the space to actually focus on healing and work with doctors and really prioritize their health. It also gives you the chance to deepen your relationships with the people you love. You know, maybe you have someone that you want to spend more time with and you don't have that chance. When you take a break, you have an infinite amount of time to do that. And when it comes to blossoming, which is a really wonderful reason to take a break, you get to celebrate the life that you have worked so hard for, right? You have done so many things. You've probably been very smart with your money, with your investments, with the way you spend your time, with the people and communities that you contribute with. This is a chance to really live in the miracle of that and celebrate that. It's a chance to explore your passions, your interests, and to fulfill lifelong dreams and goals. I got to travel the world. I became a certified yoga instructor in Bali. You know, a couple of my clients have hiked the Camino de Santiago. One of them hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. Also just be about, I want to learn a language. I want to play an instrument. I want to start moving my body and sign up for dance class because that's something I've always said I wanted to do and I just haven't made time to do it. So at the end of the day, right, there's a lot at stake when you want to take a break. There are a lot of benefits waiting for you on the other side. And the biggest of all of these, underlying this all, is that a break offers you a complete shift in your perspective of your life, of what you value, and what your time and energy are worth, right? It helps you see your life in a more empowering way, and you realize you have more influence and control over your life, over your time, over your path in your career journey than you maybe might realize when you are feeling really burnt out and struggling to just react to all the things that are coming at you and all the demands that people are putting on you. So if breaks are so amazing, why doesn't everyone take one? Well, there are a couple of reasons. These are three of the biggest fears I see pop up over and over again when people talk to me about, Katrina, I would love to take a break, but one of the biggest is money. I hear this all the time, right? I can't afford to take a break. Well, sometimes it's helpful to think, can I afford not to take a break? Instead of thinking of a break as an expense, right? Something that you have to spend lots of money on, I want to reframe that as an investment. It's an investment in your well-being. It's an investment in your happiness. It's an investment in your future. And it's an investment in you getting to really take care of yourself and honor what it is that you want and need, right? The other thing is get specific about your number. If you feel like you want to take a break, but you haven't yet had the opportunity to do so, you might be like me where I didn't have the money to take it in the moment I knew I wanted it. But getting really specific and deciding what a break would cost, putting an estimate together will help you have a goal to understand how far away you are from that and make a plan to save money to make it happen. Career is another really big fear that people have. I have worked so hard for this career. I have worked so hard to get to the place I'm at. I've invested so much time. I have sacrificed. I have invested in my education. I don't want to just throw that all away, right? I don't want to fall behind. I'm going to fall behind. People are going to forget about me. This is just not true. I want to reframe this in a way where you think about the version of you that has the same education, the same amazing network, right? And the same work expertise, but is super motivated to come back and contribute, is no longer burnt out. It's feeling really inspired and innovative and coming back with new ideas and feel like, oh my gosh, this version of me is 4 times better than the version that left, right? And all the other people at that career, probably at that job in that company, are struggling with holding it all together and not facing burnout or tipping over the burnout cliff. And you come back almost like a super being, right? Ready to go. That can really make you shine. Your break can actually be an asset. If you're worried about falling behind, it's also worth noting you can upskill during a break. You can take time to learn languages, to get certifications. I have a client that did a fellowship, a 3-month fellowship, which really expanded his network and really expanded his career opportunities, right? You can deepen relationships with your network. But a career break does not have to actually hold you back in your career. It can move you forward if you are making a plan for how you're going to spend that time. And the last one I'll quickly address is perception. What will people think of me? What will I think of myself? Who am I if I am not a lawyer or a project manager or the VP, and director of operations? We can feel like taking a break is a signal to the world that we're lazy or that we're being selfish or that we're being irresponsible. But I want to offer the idea that the most irresponsible thing you can do with your one precious life is not live it to the fullest and to not make choices that are good for you and that are by default then good for the people around you and the communities around you because of fear, exclusively because of fear, right? Living your life, following your blueprint and doing things your way is going to be scary. It's your way. It's no one else's way. But don't let that stop you from honoring what you want and need. That is how you get to the best version of your life, whatever that looks like for you. And so please, no matter whether it's a break or not, be making choices that are about making the most of this one precious life that you have. That is my biggest piece of advice. So you might wonder, like, who is actually taking a break? This is a snapshot of my clients, of the majority of my clients who have taken a break and worked with me to take a break. And what is interesting about this is they span the whole gamut, right? When you think about what they're doing, they're guidance counselors and teachers, VPs, marketing managers, project managers, CEOs, CIOs, COOs, like everyone in between is taking breaks, right? There's no specific kind of person. When it comes to the age range, they average in the early 40s, but I have worked with clients in the early 30s. And most recently, I've had 2 clients that were actually in their early 60s, right? So again, it spans a huge range here of people that are coming to this awareness, I need and or want a break. A lot of people will say, I can't take a break because I have a partner, I have kids, I have responsibilities. And so I just want to also highlight that, almost 2/3 of my clients do have partners, about a third are single, a little over a third. A third of my clients almost have children and are navigating taking a break with children. They own homes, they have pets, right? You can find a way to give yourself the break you need if you're willing to get creative, regardless of the responsibilities that you feel like you have. And also, I want to add one of the maybe misnomers about taking a break is that you have to travel abroad. For sure, travel is an amazing vehicle through which you can have perspective and change and just so much self-awareness. But a third of my clients don't actually take international travels when they're on their break. So if you want to take a break where you stay at home or you travel domestically or you just spend time with people that you care about, that is completely okay, right? You don't have to travel abroad to take the most amazing and successful break. So let me just put it in perspective for you through numbers. I love numbers. I'm a former math major. I majored in math at Smith. So here we go. Over your working lifespan, you are going to work on average 45 years. That's 4.5 decades of work. And if you turn those years into days, that's 11,250 days. That excludes vacation, that excludes holidays, that excludes weekends. That's like 11,250 days that you show up to do an amazing day of work, right? And if you turn that into hours, that's 90,000 hours. And I'm willing to bet that pretty much everyone watching this workshop, all the Smithies out there, are going to work more than the average of 90,000 hours in their lifetime. But using these numbers, what would it cost you to take a break? What would it require of you from a time perspective to take a break? Maybe not as much as you think, right? A 6-month break is simply saying, I am reclaiming 125 of those work days to invest in my well-being, to invest in my joy, to invest in self-exploration, and to invest in literally anything I want to invest in outside of just my work, right? And when you turn that into hours, it's only 1,000 hours. It's 1,000 hours of you putting that energy back into yourself, back into exploration, back into self-improvement, and back into like nurturing your own well-being, which is a really important thing to do. Okay, so let's talk about the planning process. Let's get down to it. So whether you are on a break now or thinking about a break, or even returning from a break, the planning process can be really important and really helpful for you to have clarity in how you speak about your break. So what you see here is the break blueprint, which Christy mentioned in my bio, but this is like a 1-page roadmap to what it takes to have a successful break and to feel really anchored and have a structure that's going to support you no matter what happens on your break. So there are 5 really important elements that I just want to address in this break blueprint that you should go through when you're on a break. And even, even as you're planning and considering a break, it can be really helpful to do this exercise, even if you're not sure that you're going to take a break. So you want to think about your why. You want to have a purpose statement. You want to think about the pillars of your break, those 3 to 4 themes that are going to define what this break is about for you. When you live into those themes, this is how you fulfill the greater purpose. And we're going to dive deeper into this in a moment when we do the workshop portion. But you want to think about having 3 to 4 themes. When it comes to the re-entry period, this is a piece I see a lot of people miss when they aren't, like really being thoughtful about their plan and proactive. You need to set aside time to transition out of a break. You need to process your experience. You need to process your emotions. You want to reflect on your experience. You want to get sold on the benefits of the break and really understand what you gained from it so that you can articulate it in your networking, in your interviews, in your cover letter, right? And you really want to give yourself this time to start planting seeds for a job search. What I don't want for you to do is to come very full of panic and desperate and think, oh my gosh, I just have to find a job. This job market is so hard. Like, I don't even know, is anyone going to hire me? How are they going to feel about my break? I just need to take the first thing coming because I just need money in my bank account. I'm running out of money, right? That's not the energy that you want to bring to the job search. You want to be confident. You want to be sold on your break, and you don't want to take a job that feels like settling. You want to cast that vision. A re-entry period gives you the space to cast that vision. And when you're actually on a break and your brain is freaking out and telling you that you've made a huge mistake and that your whole life is going to erupt like a volcano and explode, you can tell, okay, brain, I know you're just trying to keep me safe. I know you're just trying to like freak me out so that I will take action, but I have a re-entry period. That's January. That is when we will worry. I've set aside time for us to worry and to answer questions and to take action. Right now, I am sitting on a beach enjoying, my umbrella and the sun, and I want to be present to this. So I already know I have time to worry about this and figure out a solution, right? So the re-entry period is great in so many ways. The last thing you want to think about are having a start date. If you are deciding, considering, planning a break, it's going to create a sense of commitment, like a psychological commitment to actually taking a break, even if it's tentative and you have to move it. It's going to make it feel more real. It's going to keep you motivated, and it's going to help you start the planning process of figuring out, like, okay, if I leave on this day, like, when would my lease end? When would I move if you're going to move, right? Or when would I, like, all the pieces, especially if there's travel involved, this will help you start to figure that out. And then again, the cost. You want to think about, with this break, what is an estimate of what I expect to spend on my break? Like, what is the estimated cost of my break? This is helpful when you're like me and you don't have all of the money immediately and you're thinking about, I need to save towards this break. I need to like make this happen. It gives you a goal. But when you're on a break or about to take a break, it also gives you an anchor point through which you can manage your money and make sure that you don't run out of money before your break is over. And just one important thing I want to add about money when it comes to a break. I hear a lot of people say when, they look at the number, they're like, oh, I just can't afford it. And what's really interesting, this has been very interesting, is that the majority of my clients actually have access to the money. They'll say, I can't afford a break, but they have access to the money. They just aren't giving themselves permission to spend it. And so I just want to remind you, encourage you, right, to think about this as an investment and to really think about the cost. And if the cost is too great, you can always get creative in ways to scale it back, in ways to save money, in opportunities that you can take to make more money or have some type of passive income while you're on a break. I have clients that rent out their homes and they either move in with a family member or they decide to travel to countries where their currency goes a lot further, right? There are ways to be creative, but having that number can be really helpful for you to have an anchor point so that you don't go over a budget, have to end your break earlier than you thought you would. So with that said, I think we're ready to transition into the workshop part where we're going to dive deeper on the purpose statement and the themes. But I don't know if we have any questions, Christy, any clarifying questions?
Yeah, so now would be the time if folks have questions about anything Katrina just presented. Katrina, I don't know if you could pop down your deck for a second so we can get
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
view. If you have a question, pop it in the chat. We will answer it. I know I saw one earlier that just wanted to get some further information about what you mentioned. Oh, my video is off. I'm sorry. What you had mentioned about your break. So when you took your break, just using your kind of situation as an example, were you planning to come back to the same place, or did you do the big break where you're like, I'm out, I'm doing my thing, and we'll figure it out when we get back? What was?
Yeah, that's a great question. I cut all ties. So being super honest, like I really felt like I wanted this deep, meaningful change and I didn't know what that was. So when I left General Mills, it was on a break. Like I quit, 8 months notice. This is my end date. I just really wanted to be transparent with them. I didn't want to do like my 5-year plan and all of those things. I wanted to just be focused on my break and show up as strong as I could for the last several months and helped plan for my replacement as well. And I think they really appreciated that. Ultimately, yeah, I did quit. I ended up coming back for it to pay off my debt, and I found a better position that really suited my values. It was with the natural and organic food industry, and I'm that consumer. Like, I love the co-op, I love Whole Foods. So I was really excited. A good compromise while I was figuring out what my next step was, which ultimately was becoming a coach.
Great. I'm not seeing any other questions. That was the only one I saw. So I think we should just jump right into the workshop portion.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to just share my screen for 1 second because I have the questions, but I won't share it for very long. Let me see if I can get back to it. And it will go. Okay. So,
Oh, we have one. Wait a minute. I want to give
we do?
Jeff a moment to ask their question, or for me to ask their question.
Okay.
Do you have any advice around managing the uncertainty about timing the end of a break? Folks in my industry have been job hunting for 6 to 12 months after layoff without getting new work lined up. So that's kind of a tricky place to be in, right? Like, how do you anticipate when the job market is the job market we're in right now?
Yeah. Well, one thing I've learned over 7 years of doing this is that the job market does change. Sometimes quickly, for better and for worse. So that's number one, is you can predict what's going to happen 6 months from now or 12 months from now, for better or for worse. What I would encourage you to do is more on the financial side, to really think about having a bigger nest egg for that reentry period. So if you're concerned about it's going to take me a while potentially to get another job, making sure that the amount that you're dedicating to that transition, where you are reflecting on your break, you are applying for jobs, but you're also networking, and all of that's happening in the reentry and the job search period, just dedicating more time and money to that. But I also, this might sound a little controversial, but I also want to say, I have coached so many people through breaks, and the difference that they have obviously is that they've been really thoughtful about the plan, but also articulating the benefits and being able to use the break as a resource, as an asset, as a spotlight and a highlight in their communication and their networking, right? And how they approach the job market. And I have clients that have shortcut, right? This job market. I have clients that find jobs in 2 or 3 months. And I really believe a huge part of that is that they have an energy that says, I just took a life-changing break. I am fully restored. I took some time to travel, to live my dreams. And now I am so excited to be back here and to be ready to contribute. Lines with my values. I'm so excited to be one of your contributors. Here's why, right? And so it's like, people are impressed by that. It helps you stand out. You are not feeling burnt out. You aren't coming with that desperate energy. And I really think that can help you be, be a really stand candidate. So I still see people that aren't struggling with the 6 to 12 months, although I do understand that is the reality for many. But I do think a piece of that is you deciding what the story time off is. And if you can own that and really highlight it and talk about the benefits to you, but reflect back as how they're going to be benefits to that future employer, I think that's a really great way to reduce that time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love, and that's kind of your whole principle, right? Is like the career break can be an asset. So also, as you're saying, like understanding how to tell that story. And really that's where the reflection time and like the reentry time, I would imagine, could be really beneficial. And there is another question in the chat about the reentry period. Can you talk about kind of what's a typical day look like during the reentry period? Like, what should people be doing during that time when you're like straddling these two worlds, I guess? What would you recommend? What do you coach people to do during that time?
Yeah, it's going to be a blend. So I think the sort of like propensity is to stop taking care of yourself and to like suddenly freak out and fully immerse in the job search. Please don't do that, right? If you have a morning routine, if there are things in your day like taking walks, hanging out with friends, like if there are things that are bringing you joy and lighting you up, please do not stop doing those. Have a morning routine that's just about you, and then ease into the job search, right? You do need to dedicate time to it, but it can also be having coffee. It can also be connecting with people. What I've noticed is that everyone has different assets and different ways that they're going to find job opportunities. Some people hate being online. They hate it. They hate having a social media presence. So they're all about like that personal connection and networking. Some people have a really amazing resume and really specific skills. And so job searching through like LinkedIn Indeed and the finding and submitting their application works. But other, which one of my clients, I put him as an example in the book, he is a phenomenal social media person. He announced his break to bring people on the journey, and then he announced his return and asked for help and connections. And so it really helped move his job search forward and ended up being how he found a job. So lean into what feels good to you, lean into your strengths, but like, please take care of yourself, dedicate some time to it, make sure you get your resume up. When it comes to your resume and your story, the very first thing, again, know what the benefits of your break are. The activity I give my clients is to list 25 benefits, big and small, that they got from a break. And I'm also going to say, if you ended up on a break not by choice, but you leaned into it and did things for yourself during this time, you took a career break, you just didn't choose your state, but you can absolutely own your story, and you can own that there are still benefits in this time, even if you didn't choose the start date. So think about those benefits, make the list, get sold on it yourself, right? Even if it's like meditating, doing to just believe in that break and believe in the power of that break. And then, it's leaning into the ways that you want to connect. Asking people what's going on, podcast, books, getting back up to speed with what's going on in your own sphere and in your area of expertise is a really valuable thing as well. AI comes up a lot. You can play around with it. Like if you aren't as familiar, this is a great time to play around with it. Help it make your resume better, help it make your cover letter, start learning what it can do so that you can bring that skill back with you into the job search as well. And you can also upskill if there's like a certificate or something that would be helpful to you as you're searching, and spend some time working on that as well. But that's a great question.
I love hearing all of that. And as you're rattling off all the things you can do, all I'm thinking about is, hey, we had a workshop last fall about how AI can help you in your job search that was hosted by one of our career coaches. We have free LinkedIn Learning access for all Smith alums that includes kind of practice exams, certifications, all of the upskilling you're talking about. So just to kind of piggyback off of that, I really would encourage people to also turn to the resources you have through our team and through Smith. Reach out to us. Coaches are here like Katrina to help you in those moments as well, to articulate kind of your value proposition, to talk about like what you gain from this break, right? And then we have these other resources at your disposal that you could use during that time to really make sure that you're getting the most out of this break. So had to put my little plug in there for our program and our resources. And as mentioned, we'll share that information with everyone in our follow-up communication. But with that, other than just, this is what I needed to hear, and this sounds great, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So I think now we really will pause, move over to the workshop portion, and we'll have some additional time at the end for other questions if folks have it. But let's get into the practicing of this whole thing.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, like I said, yeah, I love it. So I'm gonna share the screen real quick to show you the questions that hopefully you had a chance to look at, maybe think about, reflect on as we're going forward. But okay, so purpose statement and themes. So you've got 5 questions, hopefully in your email. These are the exact 5 questions I have used for 7 years to help people articulate and co-create a purpose statement and themes. And I want to just quickly tell you why this is so important, okay? If you are considering a break, understanding the purpose of your hypothetical break and what the 3 to 4 themes would be is going to help you understand what's at stake. What's at stake if you don't take a break? We love to think about what's at stake if we did take a break, but we don't often spend time thinking about what's at stake if I don't. This is what's at stake: fulfilling this purpose, honoring these themes, right? So this is an important piece of really understanding, should I take this break or not? If you're really in that planning process, having this is going to help you ensure success. It's going to help you build confidence. People ask you, what are you doing? And you're telling them, I'm taking a break. You're going to be able to very succinctly explain why you're taking a break and what your break is about, which is going to make people want to support you and advocate for you. It's also going to help you give your notice in a really positive way that doesn't burn bridges and that actually has people at work wanting and cheering you on, like wanting the best for you and cheering you on. And it's going to keep you motivated through the process of actually getting to the finish line when you get to start your break. If you're on a break now, this is going to help you continue to make the right investments, making decisions easier, making sure that you're using your time and money and energy towards the things that are actually going to fulfill the purpose for your break and give you a successful experience A purpose statement is basically your definition of success. You are predefining, what does this break have to do for me to be worthwhile, to be worth the sacrifice, to make me feel like it was absolutely the best break that I could have ever had, right? And if you're returning from a break, we've already talked about this. This is going to give you the language to speak to articulate, more about your benefits sort of in hindsight and the benefits you got from it, what you took away from it. So with that said, there are these 5 questions, but I would love if anybody has started to think about these questions and wants to just share some of this with me. I would love to help you co-create a purpose statement and theme so you can kind of see how it works. And I'll just add that for some people, this feels, really powerful, but also hard. And so if you feel kind of emotional about it, that's totally okay too. Clients that are, not that we're going to do that here, but like that cry when they're just explaining it, because it's such a visceral thing to really focus on themselves and what they need. So with that said, do I have a volunteer or two that would like to just kind of tell me about what's going on, this break could be about for you, why you want to take it? Yeah, let's do it if somebody's interested.
I'm keeping my eyes peeled. If you're interested, please raise your hand. And these are the like raise your hand with the emoji. um, and Kep is asking if we could actually leave up the sheet so that
Sure.
we can follow along. But is there anyone who would be so bold to venture? These are the prompts we shared in advance of the call. So if you have, and Kimberly has also put them in the chat.
Oh, nice.
Got it all. Got it all. Anyone willing to share? Ilana, thank you so much. You can go ahead and unmute. And if
Hello.
Okay, great.
Hello.
So my break wasn't entirely voluntary. I sort of accidentally ended up in consulting, which is a very high pressure field. And I was thinking for a while about getting out of it, but my job just started wearing me down until like my mental health was non-existent. I was not sleeping at all. Like I definitely reached the burnout phase. And so I went to my company and I told them I wanted to go part-time or something, just like because of mental health reasons. And they basically pushed me into giving 2 weeks notice, at which point they immediately fired me. So lots of legal issues there. But like now I'm just feeling really lost because I didn't plan to take a break. And now I'm like, okay, I've been on this break for 2 months. And I'm trying to use it to like do professional development and to study for more things, thinking more like, people want me more in the future. But like I don't have like an end date in mind. So I know you talked about like, things to keep in mind when you are leaving your break and like going back into the workforce. Like I have no idea like when that's going to be. So I don't know if you have any advice on like how do you choose that point?
Yeah. Well, okay. First of all, I'm sorry that you went through that experience. That sounds really terrible and incredibly stressful. I just want to acknowledge, like, it's awesome that you're on this call and at this workshop. And, there's absolutely a way that you can take ownership over this time that you have. So my first question to you, so I'll ask a couple clarifying questions. My first question is, if you were able to use this time, is there anything for yourself that you would want from this time? Because you talked about, right, like professional development. You talked about how you were already thinking, it sounded like you were saying that you maybe didn't want to do consulting. So it feels like, there are these elements of job stuff, but I'm just wondering, is there anything, whether it's connecting with people in your life, doing something for you, focusing on your physical health, starting a new hobby, like, is there anything for you in this break so far or that you want to add into it?
Well, I've started seeing a therapist, which has been great.
Yeah.
Definitely I probably should have started earlier because like for months I was thinking this is unhealthy and it took a while to actually like get enough control over my mental health to start doing things. Also, I work with computers, so I've started taking a coding class and like trying to, do things like that. I started crafting again. I saw a doctor to talk about taking sleeping meds, which work about 50% of the time. So my insomnia, which was having me stay up to like 4 or 5 in the morning, has now been moved back to like 1 or 2 in the morning. So I'm trying to do stuff like that for my mental and physical health. Um, my dog insists on having me around at all times, so that's another thing that's going on in my life. I'm a full-time
Yeah.
dog mom. Um, and then my mom, I live at home with my parents, so don't have to worry about like paying rent or anything. I know I'm really lucky about that because this is not a planned break. My mom has started like, looking at jobs for me, which then starts stressing me out again. So I don't think I'm quite ready to go back to working. Um, but yeah, I do also have people around to support me, which is good.
Okay, that's awesome. Clarifying question, do you want to explore new career things? Do you feel like you want to go back to consulting just in a different, at a different place
Nope.
in a different context?
Not gonna consult anymore. I've determined that.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so before I worked at two consulting firms the last 2 years. Before that, I worked at a nonprofit, and I wouldn't mind going back to working in a nonprofit. I also don't mind working just like at another company. I work with Salesforce.
Oh, okay.
So like really anywhere that uses Salesforce, I could probably be qualified for a job, depending on what other systems we use with Salesforce. And I know there's like tons of nonprofits and universities and other companies that use it. And then it gets a little overwhelming. Like they all have different job titles, but all like have the same general like list of things they need to know how to do. But they're just like, I don't know, there's just like when you Google it, there's just like too many options. And so that is overwhelming. And then I go back to my break mindset.
Yeah. Okay. This is really helpful. Thank you for sharing all of that. So first of all, I'm going to offer that burnout takes like it takes time to recover from. So that sort of like PTSD you might be feeling every time jobs come into the enter the chat, that to me signals if you're financially able to give yourself a little bit of space to separate yourself from that, I think your nervous system and your body and your brain will all come back online stronger than before. But you deserve to have a little tiny pocket of space for you to really pour into things. And then in regards to how are you owning this break and how are you articulating it, like establishing a purpose statement and themes for a break that you didn't maybe choose, just jotting down things that you've just told me. I'm going to reflect back to you what you said you have accomplished and are accomplishing on this break. And then I'll tell you what I think your purpose statement themes could be. You've told me, right? You are taking a leadership position in navigating and restoring your health, your physical health, and your mental health. You removed yourself from a toxic and unhealthy work environment, even though they forced you out. You were very proactive in trying to speak to your needs, asking part-time. You were trying to take a leadership position over your well-being. You have really embraced your interests and strengths and passions like crafting, bringing back some of that creativity and that connection. You talked about coding. You are handling your insomnia, managing your sleep so that you can come back and be performer, right? And have more of that sort of like full recharge that we've talked about. You're spending quality and things that you care about, and you're pouring yourself into those spaces and being able to be supported. And also I hear potentially like a time for exploration to figure out what comes next. You have gained, I'm sure, some really amazing experiences and expertise through your consulting projects. And so figuring out how do I take this expertise and, like turn it into something that also has meaning and excitement and fulfillment for me for my next chapter is a really great, place to come from. So if we talk about how do I articulate this to other people, what I hear you saying, just again, as a draft, right? Just throwing this out there. If we were to talk about purpose statements, it feels like your break is about getting your life back on track, realizing that from the aspect of where you're pouring your time and energy and how you're caring for yourself, like things were way off track. And you tried to step up, right, and put them back on track while still working part-time. They said, nope, that's not an option. So this break is about full stop, right? That leader again, taking really good care of yourself and getting life back on track so that it has a lot of meaning and a lot of fulfillment. As far as your themes go, like what does that look like? What is this about? I think there's a theme around healing mentally and physically, bringing yourself back to that best place that you can get to where you sleep at night and you feel good and you wake up in the morning and you don't have that burnout anxiety and you're able to mentally be sharp again. I hear potentially a theme around nourish. So pouring into yourself, right? allowing yourself joy, allowing yourself things that bring you joy and spark your creativity, like crafting, allowing time with the people and the things that you care about to really nourish your spirit, nourish your mind. Some of that upskilling, right? If you're doing it in things that you're interested in, could also be nourishment, as in nourishing your brain. And this third theme of exploring, right? Really taking a proactive stance to look at what are the strengths I bring? What are the things I know? What does my network there, right? And being willing to experiment and what comes next. So I can't specifically tell you like what to do like tomorrow, but I can tell you even having this purpose statement and themes might help you start to articulate to people in your network, also to your parents who have the best of intentions, but might want to pressure you to find a job right away. You can say to them, listen, I totally respect that. I'm going to come back stronger, but I am really focused for the next month or 2 months on like getting everything in my health and my body and my mind back on track, so I can really like lean in and find a great job that's not going to give me a nervous breakdown or be a completely toxic situation, right? So like understanding what it's about might help you think about activities that you can be doing during this time to rebuild yourself even better than before. Any questions on that? Did that make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you. Very helpful.
You're so welcome.
Katrina, I love how you just completely kind of reframed everything that Alana just shared. And Alana, I hope you're seeing some of the encouragement that you're getting in the chat right now from your fellow Smithies, just validating the experience that you've had, and also just wishing you the best. So we're cheering for you. And once again, just want to put a plug in there, like reach back out to your network. And that includes everyone on this call, folks in the Smith network, to try and just do what Katrina's advising and reclaim this time for yourself and get yourself back to a place where you feel good about going back to the workforce. Thank you so much, Katrina. I want to, okay, we're getting some feedback. The slide might be able to come down.
Okay.
Cool.
Down.
Great. Thanks, Trisha, for that request. We want to make sure that folks can see everything. I have another, is anyone else open to having that same kind of exercise, or I have another question. Oh, Valerie, go ahead.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Hi. I direct a small nonprofit and have been in this role for about 10 years, and sort of requested and was granted a 3-month sabbatical by the board the beginning of 2024, and have just had a difficult time kind of figuring out how to organize it, because we are quite small. And so I look at that list of questions and it's like, the only thing I've managed to articulate is I need a break. But I haven't really been able to go through more thoughtfully and like take apart sort of component pieces of why I need a break and help me organize it. So I don't have answers to those questions, but I feel like a lot of people who feel like they need a break, I think maybe struggle with the same issue.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I agree. I have some follow-up questions for you, but first I want to make sure I understand what you just shared. So you're saying that you've requested a sabbatical, it's been granted, but you haven't started it yet, and you're trying to figure out how to organize it so you can start it, or you're on it and you're trying to figure out how to organize it?
The first.
Okay. So do you know when it's going to start?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you some coaching questions. Number one, why did you ask for a break?
Sort of feeling like I'm burnt out. I mean, just that feeling of like, if I don't, like, you're not sleeping, sort of like that battery image you had, like I got myself from 2% to 20%. And feel like I've been functioning in that mode for like at least the last 3 or 4 years, like bringing the organization through the pandemic, like managing all of that, bringing people back. I think there's just this notion that I never got myself back anywhere close to even 50%. So I think there's that kind of personal, and then I think it's sort of maybe relatedly, is I can't function as a visionary or a leader in the way that I should be. And so I'm kind of functioning in a much more routine, putting out fires, operational capacity, like daily operational capacity.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Okay. If I had a magic wand, I can make anything possible. Is there one thing you would like to experience in this break that's for you? Like, it could be a hike you take, it could be like a whole week where you don't leave the couch. Like, it doesn't matter the right answer, but is there like one thing that you would like to feel or experience on this break if I could make anything possible?
I think some kind of experience, like a hike or something like that, where it's a combination of some sort of an achievement combined with a real feeling of sort of being outside of my head. But no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One last question, and then we'll go with what's coming up. But my last question is, at the end of this, right, when it's all said and done, and you're like going back in, how do you want things to be different for you going back at the end of a 3-month sabbatical? Like, what does it look like for things? How are they different when you go at the end of your sabbatical?
I would like to be able to better manage difficult and stressful situations as they arise. And I would like to be able to better balance like the responsibilities of work with the things I find enjoyment in my sort of private, like personal time, like a better work-life balance, I suppose.
Love it. All right. I took lots of notes. This is what I start writing. So first, I'm going to quickly like reflect back what I heard you say, and then you're going to let me know if I'm tracking and that all sounds right. And then from there, I can give you kind of an idea of what your purpose statement themes would be. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is you have been grinding it out, doing some really tough work. I have several clients that come from the nonprofit world that it's like a pre-pandemic time and a post-pandemic time, and they have been leaders through the nonprofit, and what has been required of them to keep the nonprofit going during this really tumultuous time to the average job would ever take. So I hear you saying you have survived a pandemic as a leader at a nonprofit that you wanted to pour into, but in that same way, right, it has taken a lot of you to do that. And you are now realizing you are burnt out in a way where a quick charge isn't going to work. You aren't sleeping. You aren't really able to like fully get yourself back online. And you're ready to shed that old life, that old persona, right, that carried that stress, that didn't have boundaries, that didn't have balance. It's kind of like this break is a chance to just shed all of the bad habits and all of the stuff and all of the weight of what you've been carrying, to put it down and focus on yourself and to get yourself back to 100%, way beyond even that 50%, and to be able to step back into a visionary strategic role where you get to contribute at a higher level the way that you want to pour into this organization. I hear you saying that you want to experience some sense of achievement on your break, but I'm guessing also just to have a highlight, to have something meaningful, joyful that you do and you can reflect back on, to be like, not only was I just sort of powering my battery back, but I also got to have this sort of capstone experience that was really maybe somatic or experiential in my body, where I did something and it was something I maybe couldn't do while I was regularly working. That feels like a highlight of this time, and it got me out of my head. And ultimately, I want to return in a way where I can show up to be the leader and the visionary that I want to be in a balanced way. I have reestablished healthy boundaries so that I can now move forward and not slide into that version of me that sacrificed everything for the organization, but can be joyfully contributing, can be joyfully caring for myself and caring for my team and caring for this nonprofit in a way where I'm not going to head back into burnout. So tell me, does that feel true? Did I get that right?
Yes, 100%. And I think that, you know, particularly maybe in the nonprofit field more than others, this notion of focusing on yourself is not really a prized thing. And so I think you mentioned that a few times, and I think that that's actually something that I would like to spend more time on, and it's something that I have not spent a lot of time on.
Yeah. It's
And
so
Valerie,
cliche. I really don't love it. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, Valerie, one thing that I'm thinking about as you're saying this is that you as a leader also modeling this for your team because of what you just said is extremely critical. So I would even add that into this whole kind of conversation, and what you're looking to gain from this break is also to be able to encourage and inspire other folks on your team, in your sphere, to think about the opportunity to do so for themselves and to put themselves first while also staying true to the mission of your organization. I just had to say that because I'm seeing a lot in the chat of people just saying nonprofit, this is, or education is another field. We saw someone else commenting on that earlier. So I did just want to throw that nugget in there, but Katrina, please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's so good. And I love that you said that. And I wanna like co-sign on that and say that for my nonprofit clients, especially, there is this huge element of I'm only worthy if I'm being of service to others. And as cliche as it sounds, right? They talk about, when the airplane goes down and going down, you have to put on your face your Arabs first before the others so that you have the capacity to help other people, but also you first have to take care of yourself. And that is really true, right? Like a burned out version of you is not going to lead the organization the same visionary way. But also to Krista's point, like you're modeling a new way of living and working and finding balance, and you're doing meaningful work. If you're not taking care of yourself and you're not lasting and you're not around, like organization will suffer, like the community will suffer. So you allowing yourself to put yourself first and to pour back into yourself first means that everyone else is going to benefit. You're like the sun of your life. And when you are fully charged, you are going to shine way brighter and warm up a bunch of planets, right? Versus this like really kind of like half dead sun just sort of floating in the orbit, like off of its axis. Like you don't want to be that, right? So with that said, Valerie, I think understanding the purpose of this break, it sounds like at a really high level, right, is basically like letting go of like all of that stuff so that you can step into and embrace this sort of like higher level of living and working, right? This higher level of existence where you get to be visionary again, you have a charged battery, you're pouring into your community and your organization, but you're also really having boundaries with yourself. So it's like, I need a reset. I need to power down and power back up. And when you think about organizing it, I encourage you to think about the different pieces you've said. For sure, right? There's that power down. I hear the burnout. I hear the not sleeping. I think you need to give yourself permission to not feel like you have to do anything or that you have to accomplish any goal. That literally powering down and resting and doing things that restore and nourish you, things that give you a little bit, maybe a laugh, maybe some delight, maybe some pleasure, some joy in your day in these little ways. That's important. So I would encourage you to think about that first month as like a power down and just only being available to things that bring you joy or connection and support. And then transitioning into some of that body stuff that you talked about, like really using your body, whether it's doing movement classes like dance or taking walks or walking meditations or planning for and building up to like a bigger hike, but really allowing yourself to be back in your body and start thinking in this stage about what do healthy boundaries look like for me? What do I want to look like? If I have a morning routine, right? Is it that I'm not checking my email at all hours of the day? Maybe I don't actually like have that app on my phone when I'm going back to work because I'm always checking. I'm checking it in bed as soon as I wake up, right? It's thinking about what do healthy boundaries look like and trying to implement them while you have the space of the break. And then that third month, right, it can sort of blend into putting those boundaries into practice, really thinking about and getting excited about what that visionary role can look like. Maybe it's, in some ways connecting to the things that excite you, getting ideas, letting that creativity come back online. But truly in this 3 months, I think the highest priority is letting yourself power down. And then when it comes back online, really pouring into yourself things that light you up, that make you feel nourished, that make you feel cared for, and realizing it's safe, it's okay, and it's totally valid to put yourself first and to establish boundaries that allow you to maintain that when you go back to work so that you come back as a different version and you model, like Christy had said, you model that for other people to have a better experience and maybe not have to go through what you went through to this point.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
You're so welcome.
Awesome. Okay, so we have 15 minutes, a little over 15 minutes left. And we do have a couple of questions that are just popping up in the chat. So I wonder if we could transition to that portion, answer some of these more specific questions, which I think will also be helpful for this group to hear. How does that sound, Katrina?
Oh, great.
Okay, so the first question that I'm seeing here from Catherine, talking about working in education. I am currently on my second career break and firmly believe that breaks are a way to commit to my work. But in my field, there's a strong sense of abandonment when someone does anything non-traditional. I get a lot of "you abandoned us" feedback from colleagues that makes re-entry difficult. Some of it is related to the low pay for teachers. Colleagues resent that I am able to take time off. I have developed language trying to be sensitive to the financial issue and focus on how a break is about a commitment to education and professional development. What do you recommend for people in sectors or industries with a strong culture of loyalty that is resistant to breaks?
Yeah. So number one, right, it's you get to own that narrative. And so when people are saying things like "you abandoned us," or, like, "I can't believe you're taking a break," they're reflecting back to you their own limiting beliefs. That's where it's coming from, right? So in their reality, they are never allowed to take time for themselves. They just give and give and give until there's nothing left. And that really is like a peek into the window of the narrow thinking that they're modeling and running under, which is incredibly limiting, right? So I would encourage you, it sounds like you believe in the power of a break. And yes, it's absolutely helpful to move your career forward. But I also think positioning yourself as a model of what's possible, right? Acknowledging that that's someone's limiting belief and like being a model of what's possible, like so much more is possible. Innovation happens because people refuse to live by the old way of doing things when it no longer works. And so in those conversations where someone's like, "I can't believe you abandoned us," and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way," I'm viewing it as being a model for what's possible. Like, I want for all of us to feel really inspired and recharged and to be able to pour into other aspects of our career and come back better than ever. Like, I hope someday that I can encourage even more people to do that. What would you do if you had some time off, right? But just to like take ownership over it and know that it is a reflection of their reality, which is pretty bleak if they could never take a break, and to really just like flip that and say, I'm a visionary, and sometimes it's lonely being a visionary and realizing that the current way of doing things no longer works. It's a lonely road. Ask me how I know. Talking about breaks in 2017 versus 2024 is like a whole different landscape. And a lot of times, I had to really be able to show up in those conversations holding my belief when other people were like, "You're helping people quit their job to take a break? Like, what is that?" Right? So just knowing that that's part of the deal. But that's what I would say. And then otherwise, if you felt like you really needed to get them on board, you definitely can give them examples of how you're using this time to, like you said, like build upon your career, come back with like new and fresh ideas, and just kind of open their mind to the possibilities. But sometimes people just don't get it until like it's way beyond the times. So
Yeah, and one of the questions I had when reading this, and feel free to like put it in the chat if you want to respond, Catherine, but are you having trouble getting back into the workforce after your breaks? Because I'm understanding that the industry, like your peers, may be feeling a certain type of way about it. But from my perspective, if you're still it's your employer who you really need to kind of worry about in that scenario, right? Like, Katrina, would you agree with that? Like, there's the peer thing and worrying about the perception, but at the end of the day, we're worried about being able to re-enter, sorry. And it doesn't sound to me like you're having issue coming back if this is your second break. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Katrina, if you agree.
yeah, that was the sense. Yeah, agreeing with you. Like the key is that you are able to find work and come back. If it's more a question of, I just want to come back to a really like not hostile environment where it feels like everyone is turned on me, then I think like number one, it's recognizing that you are just swimming ahead of all the little fish, and it sometimes feels scary and lonely, but it's also really meaningful, and you're leading them all to better waters, right? And then it's also really owning that narrative and kind of framing it for them in a way where you're like, I'm trying to be a model of what's possible for you. If you have questions for me about how I did this, I'm so happy to sit with you and talk about it, right?
Yeah. Awesome. The chat is blowing up. I'm seeing so many other questions. So one of them here, someone was asking, like, they're not confident enough to just go in and say, I need a break. They're wondering if there's another way to get a break without formally taking a break by using vacation, while also acknowledging that at times I can identify with this. It's really hard to find the space to use consecutive weeks of vacation. So
Yeah.
do you have any like shortcuts for a not too apparent break that one could take without fully giving up their position? What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it's like a step ladder where you practice taking a week off or a long weekend, and then it's a week, and then like 6 months later it's 2 weeks, and maybe you have to build up to it. But number one is use the time that you have, but be fully present to your break. So if you are, when you put it on the calendar in advance, it is way more likely that you will actually adhere to it. So if you're struggling to find that time right now, we're in what, September? So if you're planning, right, maybe you're putting it on for March or April and you're holding it, and you have to do that proactively. And even when conflicts come, trying to push back gently and say, oh, I would love to, but I'm out then. Can we make it for earlier or later? That's really going to be key to protecting that time. So like that very proactive sort of planning in advance is one. You can give yourself like 2 days off and make it a 4-day weekend. You just have to be super intentional about what do I need from this time to feel like it was restorative. And then you have to honor it. Maybe it means your phone is in a closet for a whole day and it's not on. And maybe your laptop is in a drawer where you can't pop it open and check email. And you tell people that you're going somewhere where you're offline and you just don't, show up online. But like really protecting that time. But I think as far as like doing it without them knowing, I really don't have a lot of advice other than just like proactively planning it. But I will say, check your employee handbook, find out if there are sabbaticals or leaves of absence that you would qualify for, and just negotiate for it. Even if it's only 3 weeks, just saying, listen, I'm trying to be proactive and take a leadership role here to say, I want to bring my best up to this role. And either A, there's something I really want to do, or B, I'm realizing that I'm just feeling burnt out and I don't want this to become a problem. I know I have a lot to contribute, but I want to bring 100% of myself. So I would like to apply for this leave and, take it from there. That's another opportunity or way that you could possibly negotiate for some time off.
That's great. I love that. I love the reminder to check out your employee handbook. I feel like there are so many things that folks have access to that we may not know about. And it's just really interesting and important to avail yourself of all of your resources if you can.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So another question here is, I'm intending to use my break to find a new career path for myself. Any advice for someone trying to do a career pivot? This would be the second time I'm pivoting my career.
Yeah. So I would say spending, some of that time getting clear on what your next ideal situation has to have. Like our career paths are journeys. And sometimes, we're going left 2 steps and then we're like, oh, I want to go right. And it's never going to look like this. So it sometimes is like this twisty path. Take me, for example. So I would say you're in a new season of life. Get clear on what this new season of life is about for you. What are your highest priorities? It might be things outside of work, and maybe work is a way to facilitate the life that you want, right? Outside of work. Or maybe there's something you really want to contribute or a strength that you haven't been able to really lean into, that you want that next opportunity to really like shine. And then I would also say, start having chats with people. If there are books or podcasts that you really love, or maybe there are influencers that share things on LinkedIn and you're really like gravitating to what they're sharing, like go on a deep dive, go down a rabbit hole, and also interact with that person. As somebody that's written a book, I can tell you when people write me to tell me, I bought your book, I read this one chapter like really stood out to me. Would you ever be open to like even a 15-minute chat so I could connect with you and find out more? Same thing with podcast hosts. It really means a lot, right? If you bought my book or you like listen to my several episodes of my podcast, I if I have the time, I do want to connect with you. And so in those conversations, you might also get pieces of other people's journeys and get inspiration for what is out there, maybe things that you hadn't previously considered, or maybe just getting even more connected into spaces where you already have an interest to figure out, are there people in this space that I know through 1 or 2 degrees of separation that could maybe show me an opening or open my mind to skills that I might, really want to like play into with the expertise and the experience that I have. My very last piece of advice would be think about your 3 non-negotiables. What are the 3 things this next opportunity absolutely must have or absolutely must not have that are like non-negotiable? If you handed them over to a virtual assistant and they were screening all of these opportunities, they would say yes or no. There's no like haggling involved. It's just like straight up, this is my non-negotiable. And really start to look at opportunities through that lens of like, if there were only 3 non-negotiables in the world, does this make the cut? And if so, maybe there's something really good about it that's unexpected and it meets your needs and you want to explore it more. Maybe it sounds really sexy, but you realize it kind of violates one or more of those non-negotiables, and so you toss it out.
That's great. I love that. Love the non-negotiables. I'm a huge proponent of just knowing exactly what you want and not settling if you can. One more question here, and then we'll wrap up. And this is kind of related, but I think it's a little bit different. Serena says, I feel scared to take a break because I'm in my 2nd career and I feel so behind compared to everyone else who started their career in college or right after. And I don't want to feel more behind with a break. Can you talk about that feeling?
Yes.
And kind of advice there?
Yes. Okay. So life is not a race where the only thing that matters is how fast you get to the finish line, because the finish line is death. So I encourage you, right, to think about, what does it mean to be behind? Behind who? For what, right? You're on your journey. The thing I care about is that you freaking enjoy the journey, however long it lasts. So number 1, right, maybe there are achievements that you wanted to have that you feel like you don't have yet. You still have plenty of time. But allowing yourself to go on your own journey, life is not like, again, life is not this linear plotted thing. So I'm going to tell you my story very succinctly. Actuary, did not love it, was like, oh, this is a great job with like these really enticing golden handcuffs, but I also don't love the work I do. I'll make a smart pivot. I'll go get my MBA. That will fix everything. And then I'll get I'll have this great income, but like I can do something different. And it was awesome. I loved getting my MBA. I loved business school. I liked market research, but I realized corporate was not me. I'm now behind, right? Behind. I was an actuary and then I went to school for 2 years and now I'm starting a new career. And then 3 years later, I quit that to travel around the world. Like now I'm off the map. But look at where I have come in the last 11 years. I made up a career. I started doing something that people might have thought I was a little bit crazy to try, but now I have been featured in Forbes. I have been asked by a publisher. I received a book deal without pitching a book proposal. I've helped over 100 people change their lives and do really amazing things and have a better quality of life. And just last week, I had a feature about me and 2 other career break coaches in Fast Company. Like the whole article was about career break coaching, right? And so it's like, my life looks like this, and now it's up here. So there is no slow and steady plotting. If you're being honest about what you want and who you are and what you're here to do, you will zoom ahead in moments, and other times you'll feel suspended in time. But again, this is not a race where you're trying to get to the finish line. It's just about you showing up to live the best life you can and to contribute, and knowing that at certain points in time, you're going to catch wind and zoom ahead. That's just how life works. But it's going to be the best experience if you're staying true to yourself and not worrying about what everyone else is doing. Compare and despair is the death of like all courage, all like you living your best life, worrying about what other people doing. You have to stay in your lane if you want to make it, like, to realize like your full potential.
That was beautiful, Katrina. I especially loved the finish line is death. I wrote that down. I don't know who else laughed out loud when you said that, but that is so real. And I think just keeping that perspective as much as possible and hearing someone like you really articulate, like, you just gotta like get the noise out of your head and focus on what your life will mean for you. It's really challenging, but maybe that's another goal of the break, right? Like, is to get good at that. I just want to take a moment to thank you for being here. This was an incredible workshop. I personally am not thinking about a career break at the moment, but I see the value in it in a very different way now. And I'm so happy that we could come together with folks who may find themselves in an unexpected break or who are thinking about it, to hear directly from you. So thank you so much. If we could do a little virtual clapping for Katrina quickly. I'm seeing the chat just explode with information. Thanks and congratulations to you for a great workshop. I want to just reiterate a few things that we talked about today. We are here for you. This is our Smith College Alum Career Program. This is what the Alum Career Program seeks to bring you. We're looking to bring you resources, support, connection. This is what we're here for. So I hope you're leaving today feeling really connected to each other, connected to an amazing resource like Katrina. She is available. And Kimberly, if you want to pop up that last slide really quickly, if you have it handy. Katrina is available for Smithy support calls. So if you're interested in more in-depth connection with Katrina individually, you can reach out to her through our Smith Network platform and also through the QR code that will pop up here in a moment to book a support call with her one-on-one. She's also very generously offered her LinkedIn for folks to connect with her. As she mentioned, she loves talking about what she does. So please feel free to connect with her. We have more of these workshops coming. There was an email that went out earlier this week with all of our great career resources. We will share our website with all of you so you can keep an eye on our upcoming workshops. But we have more of these kinds of offerings coming your way. We really hope that you will take advantage of them and stay connected with your Smith Network and stay connected with us. So on that note, I just want a round of applause for Katrina and thank all of you for showing up and being here and just sending everyone the best of luck wherever you find yourself in this magical journey of a career path. Thank you all for being here. And we're just lucky to be a part of this wonderful community. So that's how I'll see us out today.
So much. This was great.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you guys for contributing and just engaging. And thank you so much, Christy, for this opportunity to talk about this thing that I love nerding out about.
Of course, we will have other opportunities for you to do so, for sure. I think someone's already propositioned you for reunion.
I'm like, yes, I will do it. I will totally do it.
Great. All right, everyone, take good care and keep in touch.